It's pretty much hard to do wrong in power metal. It doesn't take much songwriting skill, because it is a genre that works by numbers. Follow your steps, and there you are. I'm not complaining, and it isn't an accusation, because no musician is obliged to reinvent the wheel. And originality isn't everything as long as your songs are good. So if a whole bunch of people want to create a whole genre based on paying tribute to their favorite old 80s bands with a modern sound, then hey, why shouldn't they? Some of them do quite well at that. It doesn't even take any real instrumental skills, because we all know there is no underground mentality in power metal. It is created by yuppies for yuppies, so obviously a power metal band would always have the spare funds to afford a lengthy studio time with plenty of takes to get a part right or overdub everything that came out wrong. Now, it is definitely far from being my favorite genre, but I don't exactly loathe it either. There are a few classics from around the mid-80s that I would rate quite highly. A few decent clones I would rate above average. And some boring clones that I would rate below average. But it doesn't happen all that often that something really outrages me. Well, how did Nightwish earn their rating of 0 then? There is one simple way to make everything go wrong. Let me think, what is your favorite album? Well, I have a few. But I still like them if the music on that album was reduced to 10% of the volume and the other 90% would be nails on a chalkboard? Definitely not. There might be decent music buried very, very deeply under it, but with that irritating, brain-dissolving noise over it, who the hell could enjoy it? Now that's exactly the problem of Nightwish. Nails on a chalkboard, all the time, at a way too high a volume. All the time. Actually, to be completely honest, I would probably prefer sad nails over what we are forced to endure here. This thing, an instant cause of tinnitus, and by now probably a form of cruel and inhuman corporal punishment in Finland, only used against the most vicious child rapists of all human history. And even then it is followed by massive protests from international human rights groups. You know, let me just spell it out for those of you who didn't get it yet. Tarja Turunen. And it's not just that she sounds so shrill when you listen to it, all dogs within a kilometer's radius start to wail and all glasses nearby begin to collapse. It's just... she is so damn untalented, too. I mean, her voice sounds so static and non-melodic. I've heard more complexly arranged vocal melodies from Cannibal Corpse. What is this? A soprano trying to imitate Tom Araya of Slayer? It's not just awful, it's bad, too. I mean, to give Tarja a little credit, the awful far outweighs the bad. She manages to make her voice so painfully unlistenable that most of the time you don't even quite notice how untalented she is. Good job there, gotta give her some credit. The music, as in the instruments, might actually be fairly decent. Maybe not above average among its genre, but apparently somewhat tolerable in putting on the most embarrassing 80s records after 2 bottles of vodka away. Even though perhaps too much on the cheesy side, like way too many keyboards, cheesy solos, etc. a more palatable brand of cheese than the flowery types among the genre presenters. Slightly darker, slightly less cheerful, just a bit too cheesy nonetheless. Well, fairly decent means it could be listenable. I mean, the instrumental section is rather inoffensive, but it doesn't really accomplish anything either. It's extremely simplistic and even more by the numbers than 90% of all other generic power metal bands of today would even dare. Completely unspectacular. Its function is clear, it simply serves as support for the vocals, the designated gimmick of this band. This makes it nearly impossible to concentrate on what little musical quality there might be hidden there. It's barely possible to pay any form of attention to it, because there's always the brutal audio torturing device punishing us every time we think we have a moment to take a breath and minimally recover. One funny story is that when I first wrote this review and showed it to a few friends, it was a little shorter than it was than it is right now. They told me the first song, the title track, was a cover. Well, I had no idea, so I thought I probably didn't know the original. However, I did get curious after a while and decided to download the original Gary Moore song, and it turned out that I did know the song after all. Nightwish just butchered it so badly that it was completely impossible to recognize. However, I then decided to listen to this EP again, to listen carefully if I maybe could have missed another cover song, and it turned out that the whole thing turned out to be a compilation consisting of cover songs. This surprised me quite a bit, so I decided to check the info for this release on the internet, and it turned out that all the other songs beside the title track were actually original Nightwish material. They just seemed like covers to me because they were that damn unoriginal and unimaginative. Seriously, from a strictly musical standpoint, this whole thing sounds like a power metal band doing nothing but covering 80s pop songs, unoriginal and unimaginative, ranging from Bon Jovi to Erasure. But as I said before, it is impossible to view this from a strictly musical standpoint, because all the time the music, that's pretty poor anyway, is pushed far, far into the background by a voice, in quotation marks, that sounds like a dentist drill put into a cat's asshole, put on full power, and then put into a washing machine. I don't think there is any way this can somehow be enjoyed, unless you have a really high-class equalizer that can drown out the audio equivalent of a week-long vivisection. Well, now that the thing has been removed from the band, there might be hope for them in the future, but as far as their entire discography up to that point goes, save yourself the unnecessarily cruel and unhuman torture and avoid it at all costs.